Hi guys, today we're going to do section 1.9. There are two parts to this section, so make sure you write section 1.9 at the top. Then write part 1, solutions of equations with two variables. Okay, so you're going to have an x and a y generally. And our solutions when you have two variables will be an ordered pair. So, let's look at some examples. Example 1. Is the ordered pair 5, 20 a solution to the equation y equals 4x? So what you're going to do, this is your x in an ordered pair and this is your y. And you're going to plug it in. So in for y, I'm going to plug in 20 equals 4 times x is 5. Like we did in the last section, you're going to evaluate until there's only one number on each side of the equal sign. This side is already 20. 4 times 5 is 20. And this is true. So, yes, this is a solution. Okay, let's try another one. Then we'll talk about our key idea. Okay. So, here we have an x. Here we have a y. Is that negative 5, negative 20 a solution to the equation y equals 4x? So y is negative 20 equals 4 times x, which is negative 5. Well, this side's negative 20 already. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20 as well. So yes. Okay, so my question to you then is, how many solutions are there for each equation when there's two variables in it? So, my key idea, and take a moment, maybe just pause and see how many solutions there are. Take a guess based upon those two examples too, so you know there's at least two answers. Okay, so I will tell you, you're digging my key there. There are an infinite amount of solutions for an equation with two variables. So I could ask you to name all of the answers, all of the solutions, and you would be here forever. Okay, so you would never actually get them all written down. Okay, part 2. Please write down part 2, table, equation, and graph. Write down the word problem, and we will do it together. Scott runs 6 laps before Megan joins him at the track. They then run together at the same pace. How can you, and I'll slide this over, I realize it's getting cut off a little bit here. How can you represent the relationship between the number of laps Scott runs and the number of laps Megan runs using a table, an equation, and a graph? Okay, so let's start. We'll do part 1, table. Okay, so we have Scott and we have Megan, so let's write Scott here. We're making a table. So Scott runs 6 laps before Megan joins him at the track. So Scott already has 6 laps and Megan has 0 laps. Then they run together at the same pace. So when Scott gets 7 laps, Megan will then have 1 lap. And when Scott has 8 laps, Megan will then have 2 laps. Okay, so that's our table. We'll add one more to it as well. So we'll get 4 ordered pairs here. 9 for Scott. Then Megan would have 3 laps. Okay, so that's the table. The equation. Okay, with our equation, well, we have Scott and Megan. Sorry, I'm just looking at one thing real quick. Okay, so if we have Scott being our y and Megan being our x, what can we do to each one of these to get Scott? Well, if it says he has 6 laps more than Megan, well, Scott will equal 6 more than Megan. So Megan plus 6. You can use the variables s equals Megan plus 6 too. Doesn't say what variable you need to use, but you do need to label them. So notice how over in my table I wrote that Scott was Y and X was Megan. So that's why I used X and Y here. If we don't label them, we have the S that goes with Scott and the M. You should put them with the table so I know what variable you're choosing for your equation. Okay, last but not least is our graph. And this is good because now you have graph paper. I'm going to pull up a graph, but we're going to plot some points. So I notice that all of my numbers here in my table are positive. So I need a quadrant 1 graph where everything is positive. So let me pull up a graph. Quadrant 1, here we go. And I'll move the video over so you can see. Okay. And we said over here, we said in my equation that Scott was going to be my Y. So I'm going to put Scott over here, S-C-O-T-T, because this is my Y-axis. Here's my X-axis. I'm going to write Megan down here. Okay, and then we have 0 here. Everything will be 0 there. And this will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and for Scott, same thing, 1. So we're just labeling our axes. Okay, so when Megan has 0 laps, Scott has 6. When Megan does 1, Scott will have 7. 2, Scott will have 8. 3, Scott will have 9. 4, and so on. Okay, and that's our graph. We can connect it to say it's going up in this direction. Oop. Okay, and there you go. So that's making a table, an equation, and a graph. And we're going to practice these more in class because these ones are our hard ones. That's it. Have a good night.